the parish church of San Damaso. The parish priest, Vincenzo Zuino, is awaiting a visit from his bishop. As this is Rome, the bishop in question is the Pope. Cardinals are considered princes of the Catholic Church because, traditionally, they're supposed to be the priests of Rome. The Pope is considered to be the head of the Catholic Church because, traditionally, he is the Bishop of Rome. This is a title that Karol Wojtyla, as Pope, has tried to reinvigorate. Every Sunday, he visits a Roman parish to meet its congregation and its priest. It's a symbolic demonstration of his episcopate. If other traditions were observed, then Vincenzo Zuino, by virtue of being a Roman priest, would be a cardinal. If he were, he might find it easier to get closer to his bishop. The San Damaso Church is named after Pope Damasus, who, in the 4th century, was the first pontiff ever to claim the supremacy of the Bishop of Rome over all the other bishops in the world. Another Sunday, another church, another city, another country, and another symbolic demonstration. In St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, a protest by male and female homosexuals. Inferring from biblical references to vile affections and abominations that homosexuality is something that God might not altogether approve of, the Wojtyla administration has affirmed that while the inclination is not in itself sinful, homosexual acts are and must be confessed as such. Failure sincerely to confess such acts bars a Catholic homosexual from full participation in the Mass.
We are here gathered to continue the celebration of the Christian community throughout the ages.
The protest takes the form of an alternative Mass, which, drawing together a variety of causes, is administered by an unofficial female priest.
To break bread together.
Mary Mendola is an ex-nun and a lesbian.
Why does my mother have to sit in a church and listen to the fact that her daughter is intrinsically evil? Why do the people of the church have to accept this kind of degrading treatment of family members and people they love?
But what if you were?
If I were what?
Evil.
But we're not. I mean, you know...
Yeah, but in a sense, how can you judge?
We can judge it because we know our own identity. We know that to be gay, to be lesbian, is a way of making love with someone else. It's nothing about evil.
To take people and label them intrinsically evil because of their sexual orientation, I find that immoral.
While the Cardinal Archbishop of New York may be unimpressed by the arguments, they do provoke a theological discussion amongst the Tallahassee choir on the opposite pavement.
In the Bible, it says that man and woman should be together, not man and man. But they say sexuality should be heterosexual.
Have you had premarital sex before?
If you don't believe in the Bible, then you don't believe in the Bible. I believe in the Bible. All I'm saying is what is said in the Bible. There is not a right or wrong or anything. It's controversial.
Do you live by the Bible every day?
No, nobody does. That's what I'm saying.
If they want to be with God, they can be with God. It's their right.
The impact of the demonstration is, however, somewhat undermined by simultaneous demonstrations for different causes.
Prefer a man to a woman.
Go to hell! Get off my back! Get out of my sight!
This woman is a representative of the seer of Long Island who believes that for the sake of world peace, the Soviet Union must be consecrated to the Virgin Mary.
Go home. You go home where you belong, to a communist country.
Clearly, she is unhappy that this has not yet happened.
I am home. This is my home.
You need a nice rest at home.
I was born here in this city, not far from here, down the street away.
New York City Police Department. I'm advising you now to please get up. Get out of the middle of the street or you'll be arrested for disorderly conduct and taken to the 17th precinct. I'm advising you now to please get up or you'll be arrested for discharge. Right, Sergeant. Violation of the disorderly conduct statutes. I'm advising you now to please get up. Get out of the street, you're disrupting vehicular traffic. If you don't, you'll be arrested for discharge.
I think the American church is largely in a time of transition. The fact that ethnic laity has become middle class, largely. We have to bracket to the side the whole Hispanic church, which is growing at an enormous rate of speed. But other than that, is very much an educated church where people are taking more initiative, assuming more responsibility, perceive themselves as more free.
What they and many First World Catholics perceive themselves to be free from is direct control from Rome. Rome, or to be more precise, the Vatican, is the headquarters of the International Roman Catholic Church. From here, 1,800 largely celibate bureaucrats administer a church of nearly 900 million faithful. The Pope, whatever commitment he may feel to his title, the Bishop of Rome, is also entitled Supreme Pastor of the Universal Church, and as such is the head of that bureaucracy. The administration is split, like most governments, into ministries, called congregations, councils, and commissions. They range from the Secretariat of State, the International and Diplomatic Ministry, through to ministries of education, economic affairs, statistics, culture, and even the family. This is the Commission for Social Communications, whose responsibilities cover the relationship between the headquarters of the Church and the international mass media.
Dear brothers, Episcopate, brothers and sisters in Christ, the Lord be with you. We should tirelessly proclaim and defend the dignity of every person as a child of God, destined for eternal life. We must join with all men and women of goodwill in defending the rights and dignity of every human being, the right to life from the moment of conception until natural death, the right to decent housing, education, and a just wage. We must go beyond the message offered by other persons of goodwill who do not share our faith. For we must publicly communicate the good news of Jesus Christ, our Savior, Lord.
Though Wojtyła has no great reputation as an administrator, he has kept a firm and controlling hand on the direction of his administration.
I think this Pope's own personal style of leadership is, I think it's fair to say, authoritarian. His own personal experience, both in the life of the Church and in the Polish scene, is not egalitarian, it's not collaborative. His own style of leadership is from the top down.
There is an inevitable tension between the authority that is perceived to be Rome and the freedom that is perceived to be part of Western culture.
I really cherish the freedom that we possess. It's a great gift. It's a gift, I think, that must be defended and protected. But I don't see freedom as a license for believing or accepting anything that I happen to want it any given moment. I don't see freedom as giving me a green light to subvert the truth or to invent the truth. And I think that that's an important dimension of all this.
One of the most significant truths facing the American church today is that the number of young men training for the priesthood has fallen by nearly 80% since 1965. Perhaps the insistence upon a celibate clergy, while at the same time condemning homosexuality, has reduced the numbers that the job might appeal to, but in this middle American seminary, 1,200 men could be studying, and only 340 are. In the United States today, only 10,000 men are training to minister to 53 million American Catholics. It's a problem being aggravated by the number of clergy who are leaving the church. David Corcoran works as a lay chaplain in a Catholic hospital. As a lay chaplain, he cannot perform all the functions of a priest, but under some circumstances he can administer the sacraments and perform baptism. Here, assisted by a hospital administrator, he is about to baptize a Mongol child before she undergoes dangerous heart surgery.
It's from Cambodia.
Oh.
And they don't speak a lot of English, but they do understand what we say.
Hi, little one.
This is Soraya. Okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. What name do you give to this child?
Soraya.
And what do you ask of God's church for Soraya?
Baptism.
Okay. Soraya, with the whole Christian community, we welcome you with great joy. In its name, I claim you for Christ our Savior. By the sign of the cross, I now trace the sign of the cross on your forehead.
David used to be a Catholic priest, but when he met and married a nun, they both had to leave their ministries. 17,000 other American priests have taken the same decision. The reaction of Wojtyła's administration has been to make it more difficult to renounce the ordination vows.
It was painful at the beginning. I was even bitter for a while. And we hoped to change. We hoped the change would come sooner, that we would be accepted. I wanted to stay in ministry. Barb did too, and we loved it.
I enjoyed the convent life very much, but I had gone there because I felt that that was the best way to give myself to God. And when I studied and found out that I could be equally pleasing to God as a married person, I thought, well, that really was what I would like.
I feel just as much called to marriage as I do to priesthood. I mean, that's a calling from God. Jesus, we come to you this day, asking your grace and strength for John and his wife. Bless them, give them lots of comfort, joy during this time of pain. Let them know your presence, your deep love for them. The body of Christ, John.
Right.
But in my mind and in his mind, once a priest, you're always a priest. And he is the most priestly priest I know, you know, and it hurts me to see that he cannot go ahead and do all the things that we would hope to see him do.
And the Lord bless you now, John. Help you through this treatment and get you back upstairs soon in your bed. Give you rest, peace. We pray this day, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay. I'll see you again tomorrow, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. There will be a married priesthood. I'm sure it's coming. It's just a matter of time. The longer tradition within the church is a married priesthood. For the first 12 centuries, we had a married priesthood. And so, you know, as far as history goes, it's the shorter tradition is the celibate priesthood. So when Jesus called, like all the apostles, 11 out of the 12 were married. So, you know, I don't think there's no doctrinal problems in having a married priesthood. It's just tradition that got started. And it took a long time to get it started. It'll take a while to get returned to it. I think it will come.
The traditions of the Church do change. The Second Vatican Council was convened by Pope John XXIII in 1962 and was seen by many to be a force to update the structures and mechanisms of the Church. One of its most significant contributions was the concept that the will of God could be revealed in the sensus fidelium, the sense of the faithful. For some, this opened up the possibility of a diverse and democratic approach to theological dogma. For the sense of the faithful in Rome may differ profoundly from the sense of the faithful in downtown Chicago. Michigan Avenue North Side is the land of the yuppie, the land of the air-conditioned office and the stretch limousine. Michigan Avenue South Side isn't. Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the United States. On South 65th Street is a Catholic shelter for women at risk.
First time I went along with one of the women, we walk in, there's roaches crawling up and down the doorpost before you even get inside the door.
It was set up by Sister Donna Quinn.
Overwhelming for the women to go in there and begin to clean. Now, a lot of them are really nice, and the people are able to take care of them. But when you have a person that's starting to lose their memory and they don't have any family help,
are there problems?
The sense of the faithful in the 65th Street shelter is far removed from Rome.
Well, the church has this fluffy view that there are only married people amongst the faithful. And this is not true. That's why the church has to get out of the mentality that everybody lives in a nice little mother, father, two-parent home with a little white picket fence around it. That is not true. And we have to walk with people. We have to be with them.
Here, up to 140 women and children can receive basic teaching and job experience in a local old people's home. Those who arrive pregnant are not necessarily discouraged from seeking abortions, and all are offered advice about and encouraged to discuss the relative merits of different methods of contraception.
What do you tell you? No, yeah, you insert it.
Okay, right. You like insert it, you know, like in between, stick.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's supposed to stop the woman and the man from mating, you know. It like stops the
spermicide.
Right, and stuff. So I don't know. I consider it is about like the diaphragm. You know, I know that core is not. It's not the. But see, you gotta know how much room you're supposed to leave in a rubber. Okay. I know men say everything about it, but you just supposed to know how much. You know, they tell you, like when I went to the maternity school, you know, they was trying to, you know, explain all of that to us.
There's a book that a friend of mine, who is a public health instructor, gave me that would like to leave here. If you're interested, it's called Our Bodies, Ourselves. Have you seen that book? It means that you, as a woman, take responsibility for your body and understand and make some responsible decisions based on some good information. Ultimately, as we said at the beginning, you can't eliminate all.
For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Let's get the tables and chairs set up together.
For Catholic nuns to provide contraceptive advice is, in the eyes of the Church, a serious defiance of Catholic teaching.
I feel that I am obedient to the will of God. So I don't see my vow as one of obedience to a man who happens to be Pope at this time. He is a bishop. He's the Bishop of Rome. We actually are saying that our vows are interpreted in a much different way than this Pope seems to be interpreting them.
This is the kind of confusion often laid at the door of the Second Vatican Council.
Vatican II was one of the greatest things that ever happened to the Church. The institutional Church encouraged us to study, and I studied at 2 secular universities. They encouraged us to use our minds, to think, to be with the people. So we changed our schedule, we came out, we changed our clothing. We walked and talked and we stood with the poor. And now they say, wait a minute, go back 20 years, you know, go back, that wasn't right. And they'll never be able to put us back in. We're here to stay, and that's one thing the men have to know. We will not go away.
Many of the post-Vatican II generation feel disappointed by the priorities of Wojtyła's papacy.
If we really believe in the church, if we really accept the church, then we also have to accept the fact that within the church there is a teaching authority. And it's this teaching authority which has been given to the church by Christ that keeps us within the parameters that are needed so that we will not veer too far away from our tradition, from the gospel message that has been entrusted to the church.
The church always has the right to teach. It always does, but its teaching must be based on what was formulated during Vatican II.
No doubt in an effort to clear up such misunderstandings, Wojtyła invited Cardinal Ratzinger to head the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, previously better known as the Inquisition.
I will go to the podium if you escort the Cardinal to the chair.
Though a liberal at the time of Vatican II, Ratzinger was disturbed by the way he felt it had been misinterpreted. For him, the sense of the faithful is simply the body of belief shared by the Church as a whole. Any attempt to see it as a license to practice theological democracy is, for Cardinal Ratzinger, a kind of intellectual hooliganism that undermines the authority of the Church and the Bible.
One can see, so the argument goes, that the Bible does not really possess a moral wisdom, but that from time to time it adopted as its own the moral insights of the world around it. The future creates what is moral. By this standard, even murder can be moral. It is just the opposite which is correct.
I think the Pope and some of his cohorts would like to put Vatican II behind them. I think they'd like to think it didn't happen, yes. And they get angry when we bring out the fact that the sense of the faithful is very important in the teaching of the Church, because I think they'd like to run with it and just think that the whole spirit only blows through their minds or whatever, and that they have the total picture, and I don't think that's true.
There is no doubt that the Church has much to learn from the experience of people, and that teaching has to be related to the de facto situation in which we live. At the same time, we believe that we must hold intact the basic message which Jesus gave to the Church. People seem to be going away from the tradition, the values, the teaching that have been part of our tradition over the years. But one of the questions I asked is, has that made people happier? Has it really given them a new lease on life? If you could answer that question in a positive way and say, yes, things are much better, people are much more satisfied, they're much happier, they're much more at peace with themselves and with others, then I would say, well, you know, maybe we better rethink some of these things that we've been preaching. But I don't see that happening. And my point is that little by little, people will come to see that the truth of the gospel is still as relevant today as it ever was.
Unlike the modernists, Wojtyła sees diversity as inevitable and Vatican II as being the tool to deal with it.
I am convinced that the diversity is due to the nature of human family and is due to the nature of the church. At this moment, the church is the church of the world. Perhaps Vatican II was the moment in which the episcopate could become more aware of this fact, that we are the church of the world. The church is implanted in the whole world.
For Wojtyła, then, Vatican II was not about the 20th century affecting the church and bringing it up to date, but about the desire to bring the church up to date so that it might better affect the 20th century. The papal audience has been a feature of pontifical public relations since 1939. In the newly built audience chamber, Pope John Paul II greets international pilgrims. In homilies delivered over consecutive weeks, he promulgates the basic messages of his administration.
Fratelli e sorelle, noi crediamo in un solo Signore, Gesù Cristo, Figlio di Dio, generato unigenito monogeneo dal Padre, cioè dalla sostanza del Padre, Dio da Dio, luce da luce, Dio vero da Dio vero, generato, non creato, consostanziale al Padre.
While his words are recorded for later transmission throughout the Catholic community, those at the audience have the chance of a brief encounter with papal charisma. Despite the assassination attempt, which occurred during a papal audience, John Paul II insists on continuing this personal style of papacy. Although the images are convincing, Karol Wojtyła has been described as the most adored but least obeyed pope in recent history.
Dear brothers and sisters, from the very beginning, the Church has professed, preserved, and defended her faith in Jesus Christ, true God and true man, who is both Lord and Savior.
Whereas papal authority may be challenged in the first world by concepts of freedom, it's challenged in the third world by a whole new theology.
Isso faz com que a igreja no Brasil seja uma igreja, antes de tudo, sofredora. Porque a igreja é povo de Deus. E a imensa maioria do povo brasileiro é católico. Católico, apostólico, romano. Esse povo é a igreja. Hein? É uma igreja que passa fome, é uma igreja que não tem habitação, encurtiçada, que se aglomera nas grandes periferias das imensas cidades. Isso faz com que nós tenhamos, então, uma igreja muito parecida com a igreja de Belém, onde o Senhor nasce no meio de animais. Não é uma pessoa e nem uma igreja colocada numa situação de poder e de grandeza que tem credibilidade para anunciar Jesus Cristo, Redentor do mundo, a todas as classes sociais.
Land rights are a vital issue in Brazil, where millions of people are effectively homeless. This is a land invasion. If these people can hold on to this small patch of land, they may win the right to build a favela, a slum. Observing, listening, and helping in the struggle is an Irish priest who has lived and worked in Brazilian favelas for 11 years, Father Pat Clark.
I think the message is, the central message is, we've got to learn how to listen. And we've got to listen to the poor people, to listen to the ordinary people. You know, they have an awful lot of wisdom. A very interesting example of that was coming across a man one day, and he was building his house, and I was wondering how on earth did he get all these bricks. And when I asked him, he said he collected them on the street. He said it took me 2 years to get enough. And he said, even when there was only half a brick on the street, I picked it up. So I asked myself, well, what does he see when he picks up half a brick? He obviously sees his house. So that left me wondering about who's trying to convert who, or who's preaching to who. Because I don't have enough faith to pick up half a brick off the street.
A favela may look like a slum, but it is a community, much like any other. The favela of Villa Prudente has been here 40 years. Has 800 inhabitants with their own church, their own creche, and a children's day centre. It is simply Pat Clark's parish.
Unless we were to reduce the church to a centralized bureaucracy and therefore deny its very essence, then the periphery must have a voice. And what's the point of having a voice if it's not listened to?
Take my covenant on your lips. You who despise my law and throw my words to the wind. I will show the salvation to the earth.
There is an official mechanism that enables the voice of the periphery to be heard at the centre. It is the ad limina visit. Bishops from all areas must visit the Vatican at regular intervals and meet the Pope.
Sacrifice of thanksgiving honors me, and I will show God's salvation to the upright.
It is not just a ceremonial, nor a mutual admiration society. The bishops can criticize the Vatican can criticize the bishops. But it is not only third world clergy who express concern about the Church's policies on poverty. Here, a group from England visit the Commission for Peace and Justice.
Since 1967, many commissions have taken up other subjects, which was not the original purpose that the Council Fathers asked for, which was a Secretariat for World Poverty. It's quite clear what the Council Fathers wanted. They wanted the Church to be aware of the problem of poverty in the third world and social justice on the international scene. And it was...
But there are limitations to an ad limina visit.
Nós estivemos, inclusive, durante 3 dias, 21 bispos brasileiros, e eu estava entre esses bispos. Durante 3 dias estivemos dialogando a respeito da situação da igreja no Brasil. Querendo, inclusive, naquilo que foi uma pergunta sua, colocar em comunicação a situação da igreja no Brasil, para que a Cúria Romana tenha uma visão objetiva do que acontece aqui. Se bem que, para que tenhamos uma visão objetiva do sofrimento e da grandeza da igreja aqui no Brasil, nós precisamos viver aqui.
Deep in the Brazilian forests is the old royal capital, Petrópolis. Here, a community which ekes out a precarious existence on the town's rubbish dump is slowly being transformed. The wooden shacks are being replaced by more permanent dwellings. Drains are being laid. The people themselves have begun to cover over the rubbish dump, and since the authorities continue to offload refuse at the site, they've built a small processing plant to profit from it. It is being done under the guidance of Father Leonardo Boff and his brother Clodovis, 2 of the founding fathers of what has come to be known as liberation theology.
A teologia da libertação é o esforço que os pobres fazem, a partir de sua fé cristã, de conseguir mais condições de vida, de pão e de liberdade. A fé cristã na América Latina teve sempre uma função de consolidação da sociedade injusta. Agora, a fé cristã tem a função de libertação contra a sociedade injusta.
Como Cristo, ai de vós ricos, mas feliz de vós pobres. Mas era o mesmo Cristo que amava o rico e o pobre, para converter o rico e libertar o pobre.
É conveniente pensarmos que a verdadeira teologia da libertação é aquela que, libertando o homem do pecado, liberta o homem das consequências do pecado. A injustiça, a fome, a miséria, a guerra, fruto do pecado. À medida que nós lutamos pela conversão dos homens, lutamos também pela conversão das estruturas que oprimem o homem. A falsa teologia da libertação, minhas restrições são várias, mas para a falsa teologia da libertação. Entre elas, há uma tentativa de relacionar marxismo e cristianismo. Marxismo e cristianismo não se pode associar como doutrina. E esta tentativa de associação do marxismo com o cristianismo resultou no esvaziamento do cristianismo e um fortalecimento do marxismo.
Para nós, a questão importante não é Marx, nem o marxismo. O importante é o oprimido e as causas que levam a reproduzir a opressão e impedir a libertação dos oprimidos. Trabalhando com o povo, inserindo-se na sua luta, descobrimos que o marxismo traz algumas luzes na compreensão da geração da pobreza. Então, a partir da luta e dos pobres é que vamos ler Marx. Nós não lemos Marx e depois vamos aos pobres.
Accusations of Marxism find a receptive, if concerned ear, in a Polish pope who for 30 years had worked under an atheist Marxist regime.
O Papa tem limites pessoais com referência ao marxismo, porque ele teve uma experiência penosa com o marxismo polonês. E nós compreendemos essa limitação do Papa. E por isso nós ficamos perplexos quando o Papa faz uma crítica abstrata do marxismo, porque temos medo que essa crítica do Papa ao marxismo enfraqueça a luta dos pobres e os pobres se sintam abandonados pela igreja.
Eu sempre digo que o povo brasileiro se assemelha muito àquele homem que foi assaltado na estrada de Jerusalém a Jericó. E por aquela estrada passaram 3 categorias de pessoas que eu vejo no concreto da sociedade brasileira. Passou por aquela estrada um sacerdote, olhou para aquele pobre homem, viu aquele homem perdendo sangue à beira da estrada, foi avante, deve ter ido até o templo. E no templo deve ter feito orações a Deus, mas não socorreu aquele homem. Mas há uma segunda categoria, que é o capitalismo liberal, selvagem, que está aí, corporificado na atitude do levita. O que é que diz o capitalista liberal? O que é meu. Eu faço da minha propriedade aquilo que bem entendo. Mas há o samaritano, aquele que tem a sensibilidade, que comunitariza os bens. Ele diz o que da propriedade? Aquilo que é meu é nosso. Eu comunitarizo. É a mensagem do Evangelho. Hoje diriam aqui, nem sei de que categoria, até quem sabe um marxista.
Father Jan van der Heyden, on the way to visit a part of his parish, has been called a Marxist, and not only by his enemies. When the Brazilian government wished to turn these islands off Cananea, 200 miles south of São Paulo, into a nature reserve, they planned to evict the islanders who had been living and working here since the 1850s. It was Father van der Heyden who took on the authorities in a long legal and political battle to preserve the islanders' rights, and won. As a result of his success, he was put on a hit list by local businessmen who had hoped to profit from the deal, and at least one attempt has been made on his life. When liberation theology attacks the enemy, rather than loving the enemy, it parts company with official Catholic teaching. For those working in the harsh realities of the Third World, that teaching and its teachers can seem somewhat remote.
O Papa não entende o primeiro mundo. O Papa é do segundo mundo. Ele não tem coragem de acreditar nos pobres. Ele conhece a repressão, opressão, conhece a estrutura da União Soviética e ele não percebe a opressão do Ocidente muito mais safada. Ele caiu nessa asneira. Ele caiu realmente no jogo do Ocidente. Então ele acha que o Ocidente, naquele sistema, sei lá, o Novak diz que o capitalismo americano é a forma mais perfeita da aproximação maior do cristianismo. E ele acredita nisso. Ele vai tomar chá com Reagan em Alaska. Esse que é o problema.
There is no doubt that the policies of the Vatican are open to a variety of interpretations. Bishop Luciano of São Paulo, a prominent supporter of liberation theology and head of the Brazilian Bishops' Conference, has been promoted to be the Archbishop of a remote mountain region. His congregation see it as a bureaucratic boot upstairs. They meet for an emotional farewell.
Há conflito que perpassa, não na fé. Todos cremos no mesmo Deus, no mesmo Jesus Cristo. O conflito passa na forma diferente como entendemos o desenvolvimento no mundo.
I think there is room for synthesis. A synthesis very badly needed, in fact, in Latin America, because what you're getting now is the rejection of the social dimension of the gospel by a fundamentalist, bureaucratically orientated drive within the church, which says that's all communism, or that's all sociology. It's nothing to do with religion. And to me, fundamentalism is no answer to the religious dilemma that Latin America is in. In fact, it's the opposite. It's an act of despair.
Pledging to carry on Don Luciano's work and using a lighted candle as their symbol, a flame is passed throughout the congregation.
Eu fiz convite ao cardeal Ratzinger para vir ao Brasil. Bem, Ratzinger alegou que ele é uma pessoa muito ocupada em Roma. E eu, inclusive, acho que é perigoso para Ratzinger descer ao nível dos pobres, porque ninguém fica intocável quando entra no continente dos oprimidos. Ele não só recebe grande escândalo, se ele tem profundidade humana e religiosa, ele se enche de iracúndia sagrada e deve dizer: esse mundo não pode ser querido por Deus, nós devemos transformá-lo. E quem transforma esse mundo não é a igreja, não é o Estado, não são as classes dominantes, são os pobres mesmos organizados. E é isso que a teologia da libertação sempre quer dizer.
Unlike Cardinal Ratzinger, Papa Wojtyla has visited Latin America, and subsequent Vatican directives have been somewhat more sympathetic, at least to the aims of liberation theology.
Eu creio que os discursos do Papa na América Latina têm ajudado as lutas dos pobres, porque ele tem feito crítica à violação dos direitos humanos, tem criticado os abusos da riqueza e do capital. Mas o conjunto da sua intervenção pastoral tem favorecido o povo, e o povo sabe, o Papa está do nosso lado, não está do lado dos nossos opressores.
For the human family, for humanity, the situation is not so positive. No? We have some elements of hope for the future, but humanly speaking, that is between the nations, between the political power, political blocks, between the three worlds in one world, the first, the second, and the third. It is still not only a distinction, a difference, but sometimes an abyss of situation. The Church should embrace all the cultures, all the specificity of different peoples. For the nature of the Church is communion. Christ said to the apostles, go to all the nations.
And in a move that was to change entirely people's conception of the papacy, that is exactly what Papa Wojtyla set out to do.